And sadly, and many times, most times in those kind of discussions, it becomes very partisan, or it will become, because it's politicized, it seems like the sanity leaves the room, so it becomes more emotion driven. I think it's important that there is a basis for a decision. It's our job to tell the folks why we decided what we did. So the folks can decide whether or not the decision was valid, if it was consistent, or if it was just politicized or posturing. Not wanting to be accused of pandering or not having a backbone. I want to make it very clear why I am where I am with this whole discussion. If you read the paper, you have an idea of my position with regard to Arizona. The op-eds that are there, I write that on purpose because I feel I have a responsibility to share with the folks what their elected leaders feel about certain issues that affect them. I'm going to go through a little bit of a primer as far as where I am philosophically on this. And I don't mean to be professorial. We get enough of that from DC. This is just why I have landed where I've landed. We are a republic. As a republic, it is a specific kind of government that most folks don't get, sadly. We've stopped teaching it in our schools, and they just don't get it. But in essence, from my way of thinking, and if I want to dumb it down, I'll, for your kids there, although I do think you do the service to your kids, Mr. Ray, it's all about the people. And the way power goes north or up the ladder is you loan your responsibility, personal responsibility, for things that involve more than just you, to us. And then there's us, and there's several of us cities. And we have personal responsibilities as a city to do things, but sometimes it's interjurisdictional. So therefore, we loan our personal responsibility and the authority commensurate to make that possible, to be able to fulfill that responsibility to the county. Well, then there's several counties. The county has responsibilities that they do within themselves, and so the county, but there's more than one county, so there's times when they have, ideally, as a republic, loan their personal responsibility that's interjurisdictional from the counties to the state. And then from the state, if you follow that logic, it goes to the federal government. At no time do we not own that responsibility. We have loaned it. And we have loaned with it the power to fulfill that responsibility. I disagree with the president who said the buck stops here. The buck does not stop with DC, it stops right here. Because when we loan our responsibility north, up the ladder, which is what a republic is all about. It was the whole idea of how this nation was started to get outside the tyranny of Britain at the time. And when we loan that responsibility and the power to fulfill it up the ladder, and they do not fulfill it, we do not have the option to point to them and say, well, I'm not going to do it because it's your job. It's not their job. We've loaned it to them, but we still own it, and it's our job at that point to say, okay, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to. That's why what Arizona did was right. What Florida is trying to do is right. What the other states are trying to do is absolutely right. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's immigration, whatever it is, at the end of the day, if the federal government's going to fail, the states, the counties, and the cities do not have, nor do you. If the city fails you, you don't have the option to say, oh, it's your fault. I'm not going to do anything. The fact that you're here tonight says you agree with me on that, at least on that level. Because you're not sitting back and being quiet about it. Our job is to stand in the gap. And I think everybody up here knows that. That when, in any issue, when that happens, we stand in the gap. Now, it is even more important what has to do with public safety. In fact, we all swore an oath about that. And I heard the discussion about, well, if we do these kinds of things and there's certain costs attached to it, and because the cost is going to take away from our core values and our core purposes, excuse me, but we will decide what those core purposes are. And if we decide it's a public safety issue, then maybe something else has to go to pay for it. Because we have a responsibility to the folks. When I first got elected, it seems like 1,000 years ago, I was given the responsibility to deal with an issue of whether we should close a road or not. And I worked on all that stuff for several months. Found out why I was given the responsibility by the senior members of the council. It's a good one, they played on me. And at the end of the day, I ended up being the deciding vote. And I heard all the arguments. It's going to cost too much. It's going to hurt traffic circulation. I heard all of that. But at the end of the day, we had 700 students mixed in with a bunch of cars. It became public safety. I voted to close the road. That, at the end of the day, is how we deal with these discussions. Whether it's public safety, the quality of life, we can't point out the ladder. Now, E-Verify is a specific issue. I can only think of 3 reasons why E-Verify becomes an issue. One, the employer doesn't know about it. Okay? I can get that. You know, there's a whole lot of stuff out there. They just don't realize it's available to them. So they just do the I-9s. Maybe they just didn't work. But that's not criminal. They just don't know about it. Number 2 is they may know about it, but no big deal. They don't care. It's there, and it's not important to them. You know, and so they're very willing to just take the word of whoever's making the application, and they're good to go. Well, number 3 is they are aware of it, and they intend to violate it. Now, ideally, it's interjurisdictional. It has to do with the border. It has to do with immigration. Ideally, the federal government will handle that, but they aren't. And I can't walk away from that because I own that. We own that up here. You own that. And so that's where this discussion comes from. We have an opportunity to do something about that, an opportunity we should not have, but we do. And the I-9 is not sufficient. But the discussion here, I mean, why do we have to make the employer some sort of document expert? If you're looking at something that's going to damage business, that's something that takes up too much time. When you have E-Verify, they can do it just like that. And when you have E-Verify, it's easy, and it's free, and it's accurate, but it also has safeguards. If there's a mistake made, they got 8 days to challenge that and get it dealt with. Current law supports our ability to do it. It may change, but if it changes, then we adjust. This is a simple discussion. If there's a litigation, I think it's unlikely, but at the end of the day, folks, it's irrelevant to the discussion. This council has never backed away from a position that we felt was right, even in the face of huge litigation issues. And that's existing litigation. Folks, we're talking about if there's litigation. That's even further removed. So I don't think it's even relevant to the discussion at this point. And nor do I want to become a sanctuary city at the end of the city that, you know, I understand, Mr. Coleman, your position on the bulk of our jobs, but at the end of the day, we would also have the discussion that to have a healthy job force, workforce, healthy economy, you've got to have all levels of the jobs. You've got to have the McDonald's worker as well as the doctor doing the neurosurgery. You've got to have it all in there because somebody's got to serve the doctor when he goes to lunch and back and vice versa. And if any of those jobs that gets taken, one job equals an income, that income gets spent, that means the economy improves. I don't care if you're a McDonald's worker or a neurosurgeon, it's still the same principle. And so there isn't, to me, a hierarchy of jobs to protect. You just protect jobs. And so that's the discussion that I really feel strongly about. Now, I recommend that we recommend to the staff to bring back an ordinance that mandates these to be verified. I think it should be enforced in code enforcement. I think it should be complaint driven. I think the cost will be minimal. It's a bit irrelevant since it's a priority, but I believe it not only could be minimal cost, but it could potentially be recaptured through if there's fines involved. On top of that, recapture through now we have more citizens who are actually able to work in their own city because the job is not available to them. I think there's other benefits ancillary to the enforcement of E-Verify.
If that's a motion, you have a second.
Well, I'm not quite there yet, but I'll take that. I think in the process, we should monitor this report just necessary. And I need you to understand, and this is, I don't want to get too emotional about this, but there's a reason I have some passion about this. the 1800s and before, in our early time of our country, one of the stains